So how will marketing and technology save our world? I guess this begs a bigger question. Why on earth does the world need saving in the first place? Let's have a quick show of hands, people. Who here today, in a rush to get here on time, skipped having breakfast? Who here today has probably had more than their daily fill of coffee? Who here today had a really big week, worked far too many hours, clearly didn't spend enough time with their loved ones, and as a result, had a few cheeky drinks on a Friday night? As you can see, people, we're in a really, really incredibly intellectual race. We are incredibly stupid. As a race, we can put man on the moon, an incredible feat. But for the life of us, we can't put down that 6 slices of pizza. We sit there, we convince ourselves that we'll have 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3. And then we sit there wondering at the end of the box, what on earth happened? We just can't stop ourselves from taking that extra slice. We can create artificial intelligence. We have computers now that can think just as great as humans can. But we can't for the life of us, for a good portion of the population, quit smoking. The one thing we know that is absolutely terrible for our life expectancy. We can make incredible palm-shaped islands, an amazing feat of engineering. Yet for most of us, we can't make the time to spend with our loved ones on a day-to-day basis. How much of a shame is this? So it seems that we're ultimately experts in self-sabotage. But why? What is it that makes us do things that are really stupid and stop us from being all that we can be? Essentially, it comes down to the fact that in some respects, we're hardwired that way. There's these little things called cognitive biases. Essentially, things that go on in our head, a filter for our decision-making that makes us make silly decisions. Now, I'm no expert on cognitive biases. I haven't studied it for years, but I've done my fair amount of desktop research. I've kind of come down to the top 3 that I believe stop us from being all that we can be. Now, the first is what I like to call the self-delusion cognitive bias. The idea that it doesn't apply to me. In the face of an amazing amount of research and science, we believe that somehow we're indestructible compared to the rest of the world. We'll go have a few too many drinks and we'll go for a drive, even though we know the stats on how this is most likely to kill us and others. We'll have foods all through the week. We'll have those 3 serves of ice cream. We'll have pizza 3 times a week. We think it's okay. We think the rules don't apply to us. The second one is what I like to call the resistance to change bias. And I think everyone can understand that this applies to all of us. We like the idea we can cruise through life and things are just nice and easy. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the reality is, for most of us, there are changes we need to make in our own lives, and when this information is presented to us, we choose to ignore it or choose to believe, once again, that it doesn't apply. And finally, the one I like to call the Cookie Monster principle is that we're creatures of habit. We have this theory that if we can just, today, right now, in the moment, it's okay, I'm going to be disciplined tomorrow. I'm going to start that diet tomorrow. I'm going to start running tomorrow. But the reality is, as we all know, it won't happen because ultimately we are creatures of habit. C is for cookie. C is for cardiovascular disease. So even though we know what we should be doing, we won't do it because we don't think we have a problem. And if we do know we have a problem, we really, really don't want to have to change the status quo. And even if we did, we couldn't be asked keeping up with all the hard work it takes to instill new habits within us. So how is marketing and technology going to save us? Marketing technology has a number of different hurdles to overcome. The first hurdle is how do we change behaviour in someone who doesn't actually know that they have a problem in the first place? Get ready for science, people. This is where what comes in is called the cycle of change. It's not something I've invented or anyone I know has invented. It's been around for a long time and it's used to model and help people understand and change behaviours. We start at the top with pre-contemplation. And pre-contemplators are people who are essentially unaware that they have a problem. They don't actually know that they're at risk of heart disease or bad health, a number of different behavioural changes that they need to be aware of. So what is the answer? In my subject of expertise, it's called marketing. But most of you will know it was psychology, or as I like to call it, subterfuge. Essentially, the Trojan horse principle. Don't go running in through the gate, find a tricky way to get around that people will understand and want to engage with. We took this principle and applied it recently. We were asked by Queensland Health to think about a campaign that would help pre-contemplators change their behaviour. Pretty tricky campaign to undertake, because we knew we couldn't run a campaign that talked about obesity itself. We knew that the people we were targeting wouldn't engage. They didn't see themselves as obese. They didn't see themselves at risk. So we came up with something else. We came up with what we call the health and fitness age. Essentially, it's an indicator, something people can relate to, something people can understand, and it asked a whole bunch of questions of people about their daily habits around health and fitness, and gave them a score as a result. We were given some pretty lofty targets. Queensland Health wanted 100,000 people throughout Queensland to get across this message. When we talked to them about the calculator, they said it would be great if we get 15% of people to engage with this calculator and understand their health and fitness age. And we said, guys, 15% is a pretty lofty target. Most sites convert about 5. 5% is good. We think 10 would be a stretch, but look, we'll go on this journey with you. Let's get 15% of people on board. Let's get 15,000 people within Queensland to find out what their health and fitness age is. The results were amazing. Taking these principles, combining marketing and technology, we got 400,000 people to that site. That's nearly 10% of the state. And we did not convert for 15%. I'm sorry to say. We converted 65. Now, for anyone that works in any kind of marketing in the world, that is a staggering number of people to convert through on any given site. We had 18 times the people complete that calculator than we originally targeted for. 270,000 people, almost 5% of this state, has actually engaged with that campaign, found out what their health and fitness age is, and understood, for a lot of them, that they have issues with their behaviours that need to be changed. So hurdle number 2, this is all great. We've now got a whole bunch of people that understand that they have a problem. Maybe there's something to need to change, but for a lot of them, there's an inbuilt resistance there. It's like, great, cool, yeah, maybe I'm a few years older from a health and fitness age point of view than I should be. Quite frankly, what am I going to do about it? Probably nothing. And this is where contemplation comes in. People that are aware that a problem exists, but essentially have no commitment to take action. So what is our answer, I guess, to this particular part of the problem? Bite-sized chunks. Bite-sized chunks was our answer to this part of the problem. We went back to Queensland Health and said, guys, we can't tell people that they need to go running on a daily basis, because people who don't want to change certainly don't want to commit to a large amount of change. But what we can get them to commit to is small change. Small, believable, understandable change. So don't say go running 5 times a week. Say take a slightly smaller portion size. Instead of going out and grabbing a big slice of lasagna, still have lasagna. Just grab a slightly smaller one. It's actually not that hard. I've done it myself. Hurdle number 3, how do we stop people on a daily basis from going back into bad habits? How do we get them to create habits in their life that are good for them? This, of all things, is the hardest part of the challenge. Because even when people understand they need to change and they want to change, it is extremely hard to form good habits within your own life. You need to prepare. You essentially need to be intent to tackle the action and address the problem yourself. You need to be able to then actually start to modify the behaviour, and ultimately, and this is where it gets really hard, you need to have sustained change. You need to make it a habit. It needs to go on into the future. So how do we solve this problem? The answer is technology. Or what I like to say is we put a little bit of nagging conscious in your pocket, or the nagging mum. So for Queensland Health, we created a reminder system, an app that reinforced good behaviours in an encouraging way. There was about 6 different personas. You could get a really full-on trainer that kind of was aggressive and really motivated you. There was a slightly more passive one that, was a just gentle bit of communication that, tapped on the door and got you to do the right things on a daily basis. The idea was that people picked the trainer that they thought they would engage with, and they picked the behaviours that they thought they could manage, and they set up a regime where they could be reminded on a daily basis to do better things, to create good habits. The results, once again, were staggering. 30% of the 270,000 people downloaded the app, which was 80,000 people. Now, keep in mind, we had a target of just 15,000 people to even get the age in itself. So 6 times that many people actually got the app, and on a daily basis are reminding themselves of the good things that they should be doing to live a healthier life and a fitter life. So psychology, or what I refer to as marketing, tells us the things that we need to hear on an individual basis to understand when to change, what to change, how to change. But it is technology that helps us deliver this message and deliver this psychology on a one-to-one level, on a mass scale. And that is what will change and save our world. So what can you do as an individual? What can you do to help transform your life? Surely you could just lay back and let marketing and technology fix it all for you. God knows it's tempting. Or maybe just you could take some personal responsibility. Understand your cognitive biases. Understand that you're not actually indestructible. Understand that you have an inbuilt resistance to change that is something that needs a hell of a lot of discipline to overcome. And understand that the cookie monster behaviour will ultimately lead to your demise. Have the courage and discipline to overcome the status quo, and ultimately set yourself a challenge. Just for today, what biases can you overcome? Pick one. Put the nagging conscious in your pocket. Go to the App Store, download the relevant thing, and make a real change in your world. Thank you very much.